I'm going to be talking about how to be content with life. And this is going to start by the five senses, how to ground in. And first of all, our hearing. It's kind of like we're starting out with a meditation. So breathing in through the hearing, or taking in energy through the hearing everything around, whatever sounds, without judgment yet, just allowing there to be hearing. The closest sounds, even my voice, then the surrounding sounds, then further sounds farther from us, and outdoors, if you're outdoors, if you're indoors. As you're zooming out, kind of hearing as a big ear, relaxing the sense of hearing, and recognizing each one of us is hard of hearing in our own way. For some of us, it's hard to hear ourselves. For some of us, it's hard to hear another. For some of us, it's hard to hear physical sounds, literally, like with the ear. Or certain tones or sounds, like certain sounds, certain tones. Even saying certain things can be hard to hear, or hard to hear others say certain things. Then we're going to go into smell now. And even if you can't smell anything, just imagining the ear going in straight to the brain. It bypasses the thalamus, which is like a switchboard. It's the seat of consciousness. It filters and chooses all the information. And sense of smell goes directly in. And this is a big reason why people use aromatherapy, such as essential oils or incense, because it goes right to where the centers are of hippocampus, which is for memory, and even where the parts of the brain that store short-term into long-term, that pass from the temples to the temporal lobe, and then deep into the brain, actually pass through this area as well, very close by, and next to the emotional center. So you have the amygdala, which is for arousal, the whole limbic system, everything to do with emotions, and the hypothalamus, which is basically to do with mood. It's like related to the endocrine, the glands and the hormones and the chemicals command center. So sense of well-being, mood, memory. So just breathing that in. I smell Nag Champa because I have an incense going already, and I smell very vaguely the lavender oil I used earlier, maybe last night even, and now we go into seeing. So you look around the environment, just tilt your head to the left, straight ahead. Now tilt your head to the right, and gaze over the left shoulder, and then gaze over the right shoulder, then look up, then look down. And we see everything is made the right size for us. Everything's proportionate, convenient, without necessarily the healthy natural dose of big and small. Our own relativity can feel robbed, so we may not feel big enough or small enough to feel comfortable. So just looking around the room and recognizing the different sizes of everything, and grounding into that we created all this for ourselves. If we're inside, if we're outside, maybe in nature, we might see the way that humanity has interacted with nature, and just looking around and recognizing this is the environment of things that I can see that are all adjusted to meet my comfort and convenience. And letting that be, that's what I've made myself comfortable to see. And so then we move into touching. So I want you to just slowly touch your head, touch your face, your neck, your chest, your sides, your legs, your arms, and the whole legs, like to the foot. And we recognize that when we're dying or we're sick, we're lonely, anxious, fearful, compulsive, or have been undisciplined, like untrained, even aggressive, there's still possible to remember unconditional love. And we only have to look at dogs for this. We can see that there's still the option in this temporary life to arrive into feeling the sensations. And I'm not talking about strong sensations like sexual touch or food, like in the body, pleasure, or going surfing or getting a massage. I'm not talking about any of those. I'm saying even if we are we are all dying, but even if we get sick or ill, we feel aggressive, agitated, or lonely and anxious, or fearful, or compulsive and undisciplined, or even disabled, or have behavioral issues or traumatic injuries, we still have the ability for unconditional love. And that always we can learn from a dog. And they still retain the capacity to give benefit of the doubt, to be a holder or a vessel for looking for merit. And that's how we have to touch. We have to touch with a sense of we still are lovable and worthy of affection and attention, that we ourselves have to give it to our own body. We actually have to touch our own bodies, and then we can touch others, and then we won't crave these very strong sensations to feel alive. So we'll feel alive even when you might say there's not a lot of health or harmony. And that brings us back to health or harmony, this positive touch. And finally, we're going to go into taste. And this is preferences for indulgence. And in other words, what do you like? What do you want? And there's no accounting for desire. So no account. There's no way to count whether there's a value to what you like or not. So I'm going to now list a bunch of ways, and I'm not going to use only food taste. We're expanding this a bit. I'm going to actually speak about activities, experiences, and it could even be that you might want to try these and see what you like. And every one of these, there's a chance to connect with taste. So a book, reading a book or writing, massage, magazine collage, sitting around a fire pit, cake decorating, making a report, on something you read or ideas you like, photography, sticking stickers on a picture frame, cultural or traditional soup or an ethnic dish, candle making, journaling, gratitude list, self-healing affirmations, making magnets, making a fabric together out of materials, writing a short story, tanning, making a postcard, making shampoo, painting a dish, show and tell, making chocolate, making beer or mead if you're into that, or if you don't drink it, you can make it for someone else, sushi making, pickling, or you can make cider instead of beer or mead. It's different though. So sushi making, pickling, potluck, beading, stretching independently from others, like maybe together, but stretching what feels good. There's no accounting for taste. Painting, and a music jam. These are all ways to connect with the taste that you have. And you might be surprised at some of the things you like, and some of the colors and textures that speak to you, and some of the, combinations, and some of the activities, how different it is with someone or without someone. And these are ways to ground into the senses. Taste, I'm using not just in literal taste, but in the taste of enjoying something about what you're doing and what you're creating. Seeing, we looked around and saw the sizing and relativity. Smelling, we were able to breathe in very deeply and connect with the part of our brain that bypasses all filtering and choosing. With touching, we were able to access that unconditional love. And we thought about a dog maybe who always still wants pets even when you say that they misbehave, because they still know how natural it is to need that loving touch no matter what is wrong with us. And finally, hearing. So recognizing where we're hard of hearing and just bringing some expansion there so we can become more sincere or sensitive in that area. And now I'm going to talk about how to be content with life. So a lot of times, if we don't really ground into all these, the other side of this is perhaps we think that these things outside of us can bring us happiness. And things we see or touch or smell or whatever it is, a fancy perfume, a luxury handbook that you touch and it feels like you hear a little click every time it moves. And we create these attachments. And so there's like a fish, that we're like a fish and there's a hook with a bait. And contentment and happiness actually come from being present and finding the silver lining in exactly what's here now, and even feeling like there's nothing I need but that I can contribute and give. And instead of thinking like I have to do something to be happy, it's kind of listening to the inclinations that I already have and connecting with my real taste, really, but my real preferences, and in those learning about where I have attachments, and then magnetizing of the inner world over the sensory limited kind of perception-based conditioning. So in other words, the sensations, craving a sensation to feel alive, rather listening to the feedback inside and feeling alive by how we react to life as it's happening, rather than constantly trying to cater everything to what we like already based on our conditioning, that we think this will make us feel good and content. And of course, practicing gratitude. And that's only possible when we're actually present. And we arrive and we say, actually, this feels good. It's not as bad as I thought. Or I didn't realize it was going to be like this. Or, wow, these are things I thought I wanted a month ago, and now I don't even realize that I got my blessings. Let me show up right now. So there's a chance to show up when we are grateful. And we look at our life with fresh eyes and see, is this really so bad? Is it really so good? And taking some of that extremeness out of it. And then remembering also that we do cultivate and create our own happiness. However, we can learn from the honeybee. And I learned a lot of these concepts about being content with life from the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center in Manhattan, specifically Rona Schweitz. She works there, and she used to be a medical doctor. She's very, very amazing at teaching us how to be content and how to stay in the harmony of health. And so she reminds us, a honeybee can make its own honey, but if it gets caught up in momentary excitement when it finds a honey pot, it drowns in the distractions and attractions. And so we can make our own happiness, but if we get all caught up like, oh wow, here's a free lunch, here is tons of attention, and kind of like, it can drown us. It matters so much to us, all this matters, that we get weighed down by the matter. And kind of letting go of this physical satisfaction and kind of an inner contentment with being alive is a way to remember that the driver isn't the car. The body is a vehicle and returns home, which is the Om, the silent soul light realm. And at death, the spirit, which is now merely visiting, manifest physical in the manifest physical world, but like as a guest of nature, it'll not cease. The part of us that is everlasting is just here to experience. And if we're lucky, we get to even learn. And if we're really lucky, we decide to play. And we realize, how much is there to lose? I'm going to die anyway. There's no way to escape that. But it's kind of not exactly like YOLO, like getting drowned in the honey, or, getting stuck on that hook like a bait. Oh, this will make you happy, and then you chase it, and it never, ever does. It doesn't make me happy. And the only way we can do that is if we show up right now, practice gratitude for right now, be here, be with what is, and see, what is my feedback to my environment? Am I really always going to constantly be finding something wrong, or can I actually practice being content with whatever is? And so it doesn't matter if it's our possessions, our jobs, our appearances, all the roles, everything of that is in living a box, like in the face value living, and it's more about our experience of it. You can think motherhood will bring you happiness, or having, being a CEO, but actually, like, that's when you live in the box of being a mother or a CEO, that's like at face value. What does it actually feel like interacting with the children, or being the chief executive officer? These are all impermanent. I mean, at some point, this person takes a vacation, and then who are they if they're only a CEO? Or, a mother, when your kids grow up, you're still a mother, but, like, you're not still making them lunches to bring to school. Who are you now if that's all that made you feel content? And so some of the practices to help us is just, like, inquiry practices. The first one is, right now, whatever your backpack, your purse, your suitcase, your pockets, or your car is full of, think about what you have in there. And think about how you're connecting to what's most precious, what's most near to you, what's most necessary. Where we to go now? Like on Shabbos, there's you have to use the Eruv. It means you can only carry something that really matters to you. And I really learn a lot from this practice. You're really not supposed to carry anything outside the home. You're just not supposed to need stuff. You're supposed to be able to rest and have what you need with you. And if you're going on long trip, and you could go outside the home close by, they have an Eruv in community. So an Eruv is like a string that designates this is a community that we share, and we have public space here together that we will consider communal. So shared living space. So you can treat this place like it's your home. You can walk through here with stuff. But it makes you think, like, if you were going somewhere, what's really so worth carrying around with you? What do you hold close to you in your pockets, in your purse, in your suitcase, in your backpack, or in your car? Always, like, you need to have it or else you're not okay. The second is seeing where do you aim towards perfection and do and do and do and go and make it perfect. And like maybe it's an outfit style, maybe it's like a demeanor in your persona, maybe it's like in your environment, your aesthetic of your bedroom. And then where in one area are you sort of multitasking, spread very thin and kind of like feeling like all over the place, and maybe needing some pets like that dog I talked about earlier, or needing some aromatherapy smells. Like where might it be that the sensual experience will ground you in? So in what sides are you aiming too much to perfection, too attached to the physical, and in what areas is it too spread out and you kind of need to connect to the physical? The third practice is, do I trust my body to protect myself? Versus, is it futile to break silence or frozenness and try to defend? I personally learned my instincts can adequately help me survive, and I stopped wanting to really prove to myself that I could win if something were to happen where I felt powerless or defenseless, because there were times in my life I had learned helplessness. So looking at, maybe there's learned helplessness, maybe there's an area that feels frozen, not knowing how to defend or ask for help. How do we practice breaking that ice, that silence? Or do we just feel like it's not worth it? And if we trust ourselves to protect ourselves, we don't need to keep defending and proving. So if there's kind of this sense of like anxiety or low-level paranoia or feeling of conspiracy or just feeling like not belonging or feeling like different, it's worth it to see, where do I need to like practice defending myself so I don't have that hang up. Bless me. Number 4, we can see where our mother grew up, her parents, how far she's come and grown and worked on herself. For example, I would see my mother, her parents, how they express themselves, their abilities, their emotional intelligence and availability, and the ways that they interacted and their honesty and their integrity, and then how far she's come in her life and the ways that she's tried to better the world and make a difference through her work. And I think about her name, Rivka, and I think of the Rivka had Esav and Yaakov. And it shows where she came from, because you're born with your eggs. Rivka's from the Bible. She's the second matriarch. And she had the twins, Yaakov and Esau. One was considered good, one was considered bad. But neither one is actually good or bad. It depends in what context. And you might say that she grew up in a household with liars and cheaters and materialistic people. And that's what the story is. So she came from there, and the eggs were with her all along. But she herself refined herself in such a way. So you might say that the good one represented how far she's come and what her capability was. And the second son might represent where she came from, which he also still has all these abilities. And actually, the one who lies might have a very good memory. And you might say if he used his memory for positive, or the one who has the confidence to be materialistic. And so you might say if he used his confidence, not materialistic, arrogant. If he used his confidence to be, able to inspire others, you might say that all these traits, which are considered bad, all have a potential for positive, even more than maybe the one who is quickly considered like more agreeable and innocent. So looking at how far your mother has come will give you a better understanding of your life and where you have come from and where you're going. And also looking at the fact that her father was said to be a pedophile. And so, my grandfather was physically a little bit abusive. So it's like looking at what was done to these people and what they did not perpetuate is still giving them, the right to have had a difficult challenge that they didn't, lose in. They controlled themselves. Maybe my mother's temper, she could have been out of control and violent, but she controlled herself based on where she came from, what was role modeled. And maybe Rivka, growing up with somebody who was a violator, maybe she would have been a violator. And who knows, maybe we judge these individuals, our very own mothers, as much as if we're supposed to be much harsher judges, and forgetting that maybe their mistakes are because they're doing so much better than where they came from. And we should look for that. And finally, the last practice is to think about what would you do if you knew that in a previous life you were innocent in a war and you were killed, but in the life before that you were the guilty one who killed the innocent, and in the life before that, and then these lives kind of squish all together and you're in them right now, and we have people who murder innocent people and steal from others, and you think, well, is it that in one life you stole from that one and the next life you were stolen from? And it's a worthwhile contemplation to think, were you ever really innocent if in a previous life you killed somebody? And now you say someone in my life was taken because of doctor's negligence maybe. And you say, to yourself, oh, this one ruined my life because they didn't give me the internship, or that one got me fired and I was so poor and I lost the love of my life. And there's so many stories we come up with, but what if we did exactly that in a previous life? It's worth considering. Anyway, I hope that you have a beautiful day, feel much more content with life, and ground into the senses in order to be feeling alive with what is here right now.